There's a special place in hell for women who do not help other women. And I totally believe that.
Welcome back to the International Women's Festival podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn, from Media Clubroom. So, Dr. Hsien-Hsien, how do you feel today?
Feeling pretty jazzed up. I gave my keynote. It was about accelerating action, but also figuring out what are we going to do to accelerate action.
So, when you talk about accelerating action, what does it mean for women?
For women, it probably feels like it's been a long, hard slog, right? You want me to take action. I've been taking action for so long, and now you want me to hurry up because it's accelerate action. End of day, I think what we need to do is just not give up. You know, one of the key points that I made is we need to persevere. But if we can move faster, then we may take some people by surprise. And that's why accelerate action still makes a lot of sense to me.
You know, when you talk about take action, moving up, what does it mean to you as a woman?
Well, for women, it's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because we are judged by different metrics. You do certain things that a man might do, but you are perceived differently and most often negatively. But in our case, I think women really need to think about, number one, finding a way to have a voice, finding a way to form an opinion and have a point of view. Because a lot of times people might say, hey, what do you think of this? And then they'll say, oh, I don't know, it seems okay to me. That is not enough. We need to articulate a point of view. And in certain societies, women do not have a voice. But if we have the chance to have a point of view and to have that voice, we should speak up.
On a personal level, for someone like yourself, I wouldn't look at you and think she doesn't have a voice. Where does that come from? I'm pretty sure people have described you as dominant, maybe, someone who steps up. How did you come to that?
Well, I should thank you for that, because I actually do aim to dominate. I teach my team to dominate. I like to be able to walk into a room, and I like to bring a team with me that aims to dominate. And I say it jokingly, but at the same time, I say it very seriously. To take up presence, to be in the room, and to not be afraid of who we are. And it's something that maybe seems to be that I don't have a lot of problem with it, but I have not been a woman in her 50s for my entire life. Come on, let's face it.
Yeah.
So in my younger years, I'm an Asian American woman. And in the US, in certain communities, there's still not a lot of us. Certainly things have changed since I was younger, but I did have to figure out. There's a stereotype of what an Asian woman is like. I didn't want to be it, but that wasn't necessarily accepted by some people, including some members of my family. They thought women should be quieter and softer and gentler and still be effective. But in my opinion, you cannot be that way and be effective. So I sought to change it, and I worked really hard at it.
First of all, as a young woman myself, that's beautiful to hear. I mean, you're everything I want to be when I grow up. But secondly, how did that come to be? You know, where did that come from? Are you a natural rebel? Was there anyone influencing you, or was it yourself?
Probably I was born to just say no to everything. You know, there's this type of personality where you're just like reflexive no. So unfortunately, my parents spotted early on that when somebody asked me to do something or asked me like, wait, what do you think of this? My reaction almost always is no. Seriously, just no.
So it's just born into you.
It's a temperament. It doesn't always work in my favor. I have certainly learned to be more flexible, but this idea of having a temperament that is much more resistant to influence and much more resistant to taking on other people telling you what to do, I think it has worked in my favor. But certainly we all have to learn to adjust ourselves to different situations. But I do like to tell other women it's okay to say no, and it's okay just to say no and not have to excuse it or come up with why you are saying no. Just say no. You don't want to do it. No.
I can see that you really have a heart to serve other women, right? Telling them to say no, telling them to dominate. That's not, that's not something you come across in a woman, especially in your position. Why?
So the former U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, is well known for saying that there's a special place in hell for women who do not help other women. And I totally believe that. And so when I think about being of service, it is not being of service to a cause necessarily always, but also to people. How can I help to facilitate someone else so that they can achieve even more than I could possibly achieve? I'm just one person. If I cannot support other women, other men, other people to do more, then my impact is actually rather limited. So as I like to say, if you allow me, I'm probably going to hell, but it won't be because I'm not supporting other women.
I think that's very inspiring. I think everyone that comes on here tries to be as perfect as possible.
Oh, not perfect.
But then I like to draw that out of people. Like, come on, break that. You know, you're a woman,
Good
you
for
fought
you.
like hell to be where you are.
Yeah.
Is there any instances where you've seen women's inequality just shoot back at you in the face?
When it comes to inequality, there are certain groups of people who are always experiencing inequality, and it's very fluid. So one day you may find that you are in the majority group. Let's say you and I are both Chinese ethnicity, I think, right? So Chinese people, sometimes we are the dominant group. But other times you might go to another culture where you are not.
Yeah.
And as women, it's the same. Men find themselves in this position as well. So I think in general, we need to be mindful that any given moment, someone could be in what they perceive as in a disadvantaged group. So how do we go about supporting them and addressing them? And it is the idea of belonging, right? As an outsider, which we will be at certain points in our lives, how do we belong? How do we feel valued? And it depends on other people to include us in that group.
When you talk about being included and being valued, I think that's what this festival is about, right? You know, all around us, people like me are given this platform to shout women's stories, right? How do you being involved in Playpen today? What does it mean to you? Why is it exciting for you?
Well, I mentioned that it is really important to support people.
Yes.
So first and foremost, even before Playpan became a reality, I was friends with Gary and Yvonne. So I think Gary Hong and Yvonne Xiao just embody the spirit of giving back to community, but also being your friend and looking for ways in which they can help you personally. So it's about community, but it's also about personal relationships. So being part of Playpan in its current incarnation, I'm sure this Playpan concept will continue to evolve, right? Because Gary and Yvonne move quickly.
Yes.
They also have a take no prisoners type of approach. It's just, why not do it?
Yeah.
Nobody's done it before, we can do it.
Yeah.
So why in the world do we have this glass dome now? It's because of their vision and their willingness to do something different. So for me, myself personally, for my organization, AmCham, to be part of this, it is really part of our culture and part of our values to be innovative, to be creative, and to literally be transparent because we're in a glass dome. But that feeling of transparency, I'm going to tell you what I'm working towards, and I would love for you to be a part of it, but there's no hidden agenda here. So I love that.
Beautiful. And one last question. You tell your team to be dominant. You're dominant yourself. You're very like women's empowerment. We're gonna take over the world. But it's a reality that there are women who don't have that. They don't have this support system in either their career or their families.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you give to people who are watching this, who are facing that?
I think the most important thing for everyone to remember is to take care of yourself. Okay? And you can use a cliche that you need to put on your oxygen mask before you can help others, but honestly, don't even focus on others at this point in time. If you need to energize yourself, if you need to nourish your own needs and desires, take care of yourself first. Work on being self-aware, work on knowing your self-determination, that you can make decisions for yourself and not be told by others what you should do or who you should be. Work on the self. And when you build up who you are, then people can feel it when you walk in the room. And know that there are people who are going to be cheering for you, but you don't need that either, as long as you have yourself.
I'm taking that with me when I sleep tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.